Hey y'all, welcome back. This is number 14, Jubilee. Words have meaning, and so do letters. In fact, the Hebrew letters not only have meanings, they also have numbers and tarot card associations. Hebrew itself is based off of or comes from Metu Neter, the Kemetic language, which is divine and sacred. But the Bible was mostly shared via oral tradition. It wasn't until the Egyptian-educated Moses really wrote the first scripture. And then the Greeks translated it. So we see a lot of Greek influence and Egyptian influence in the words, the letters, and the stories. Because Kemetic, and thus Hebrew, is a divine language, you will find that rabbis and scholars will break down every stroke of a letter. For example, the shin, these are considered crowns. And because their marks are basically squares, one crown represents the 4 great mothers. We can actually think of the letters as being the microcosm of the Bible. The way that we can think of an atom as being the smallest element of anything made of matter. I've had some people say, well, you should just read the Bible. The Bible is made up of words and letters have meanings. Lucky for me, I did not have your Sunday school teacher, and I am not bound by the interpretation that they told you. For example, your teacher may have told you never to read the Apocrypha. It's not part of the Bible anymore. It's not part of the Bible anymore. At one time, it was a part of the Bible. This is a very big book. Decisions were made. Things were cut out. Things were included. God's no bigger than this. 3 identical stories about Jesus. God's no bigger. Missing years. God's no bigger. The letters are all concepts. But God would never paint a concept with more detail. Where one comes from, where one's going, it's all a mystery. Who knows? Although we can see almost every story played out simply in the first 3 letters of the Bible. You are not initiated. You can't know these things. Jesus told a parable of a prodigal son who left his house to chase after women and good times, and he ended up eating from a trough with the animals. And he said, you know what? In my Father's house, there was great riches. I will return. So he returns home. And the other son, who has stayed home the whole time, says, yo, nobody gave me a fattened calf. What could Jesus possibly mean? Where did he get this story from? In this story, we see that miracles and mastery is our birthright. And we're busy chasing magic and manifestation. Did God rest at the end of 7 days? And is he resting now? Does he rest every 7 days? Does he rest every Jubilee? Is that why Jesus handed the keys of the kingdom to the church? So that he could rest. And thank goodness that the church has your salvation carefully concealed in their hands. never mind that abuse insurance is a huge industry. Don't worry that papal bulls were issued on human skin. You're not Catholic, you're not Christian. The Bible and religion has nothing to do with you. You will find, however, that that is not true. The Bible is the basis for law, for all law. And both ecclesiastical or canon law, which is the law of the Catholic Church, and the Talmud, which is the interpretation of the law, either Babylonian or Jewish, they influence the interpretation of the book and thus the world around us, because quantum physics tells us that as we think, we create our own reality. Well, in ancient Kemetic or Hebrew thought, it was simply that there were only a few who were scribes and a few who could translate. And so those were the ones who taught the word, who taught the others. In both the Greek and the Latin, when it was translated for the common people, the Latin, they call it the Vulgate because you're vulgar. And in Greek, it's called the Demotic because you're not good people. But as we learned from the very beginning, an atom has a proton and a neutron, positive and negative, and all these other entities already here in the world. Since 1302, the complete submission of all people to the authority and dictates of the Pope has been a law. And I assure you that you follow papal law to this day. How do you know what day it is? It was a papal bull that forced you to adopt the Gregorian calendar after Pope Gregory as the official timekeeping. It was a woman who created the first calendar. Her monthly bleed, her luteal cycle, follows the lunar cycle. And so she kept track of the days. The Greeks knew that the moon was female, sometimes called Diana, sometimes Trivia, sometimes Hecate, sometimes Proserpina. We are out in the wilderness, and this enemy is not part of our story yet. This should be a good person who leads us back into the city gates, where we can find shelter under the protection of the law. If you do not know the law, if you do not understand the words, if you do not understand the background, you can't break down the letters, then this writer take you anywhere. He'll take you for a ride because you are a fool. The goal is to become a master. Mastery and miracles are your birthright and inheritance. Manifestation and magic are just poor imitations of those. Peace out.